And let's get to Mike, who just popped in on here a little bit. And like I said, Deep Cover Podcast, you guys definitely need to check out the work that they do. So Mike, tell the people a little bit about your football background. And it seems to me like you put together the show a little bit. So tell us a little bit about the origins and the genesis of Deep Cover and your football background in general.
Well, I'll start with my football background because that's brief. I played briefly and badly cornerback in high school, and I joke. My coach used to always, a lot of DB coaches say this, right? He used to always say, "Crawford, slow feet don't eat," and you look like you on a hunger strike. So, I was short, I was slow, and that's a bad combination at DB. So, didn't last long on the field. And then just, I kind of always was into the X's and O's part of it. Because, you when you're out there, you figure out pretty quick, whether you could play or not. And so that was kind of, that was kind of the thing that I could do, right? I knew I wasn't as athletic as the other guys, but I could study, I could look at film, I could try to look at what was going on, and that would give me, an ability to at least get on the field a little bit, because I kind of half knew what was going on. But at some point you got to be able to play. So that's kind of how the football thing went for me. But then just in terms of the show, Kerry pretty much said it. The three of us just connected over Twitter. We were football fans. We were Ravens fans. I was a Browns fan. I'm from Ohio originally, from a family of Browns fans, and so that kind of is how my Ravens connection developed. We lost the team, essentially came to Baltimore. I mean, it was most of the same players, right? When Baltimore got the team. And so I had a connection with the players, that I rooted for. So I said, well, let me just root for the Ravens. And then when the Browns came back, I kind of followed them, but it just wasn't the same at that point, because I didn't know those players. I didn't really have the same kind of connection anymore, like, that I did. So kind of just, stayed on that Ravens train, and obviously they've been pretty good during this time. But anyway, we just had a perspective that we wanted to share. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. There's a lot of podcasts out there, a lot of football podcasts, a couple different ones in the Ravens community, and we just felt like our perspective was different, and we wanted to share that. Sure. So that's how we came together.
Yeah, slow feet don't eat, and you look like you're on a hunger strike is a bar and a half, by the way. Just gonna throw that out there.
DB coaches, man, they know how to talk that talk.
That's what I was about to say. DB coaches, receiving coaches, all like the indie coaches that used to run the little drills, man. That's where they were some of the most
running back coaches are savages.
Yeah, those are some of the most brightful personality that you run into. Like anywhere, any football team, those are some of the best people that you're gonna run into. Line coaches are also usually awesome, man.
Special team, if you get the right special teams coach, like I think about like Mike Westhoff with the Jets on Hard Knocks back in 2010. He had bars for days.
So I think Matt, you could take a little hold of the rundown as we get into some of the more Ravens stuff. So I think for my first question is, I wanted to talk about this, and I guess we can use this, and like I said, Matt, you can grab the rundown after this. But one thing I did want to talk about you guys, because you guys had a wonderful conversation with Matt Waldman, one of the pillars in the football community. Definitely check out the RSP if you don't. Some of the best work. You guys did an amazing episode. And like you guys said about bringing a different perspective, you know what I'm saying? It was a great episode that you guys did and talking about other things that happened. So one thing that's heavy on my mind right now in draft season is, and every day, you know what I'm saying, particularly with my guy Justin Fields. If I want to see how the room feels about what's going on in regards to Justin Fields' stock, because this is a story that we've seen numerous times over the years. The story changes a couple lines here and there each season, but it's for the most part, the best. I mean, it's the same story every year. And one thing I told you guys is about inherent biases that happen when we're talking about the NFL draft. So, I mean, just general thoughts from you guys, because it was the same exact situation with Lamar Jackson. My question about Lamar is, even me seeing him as a bit of an underrated passer for what he does, from where people thought he came into the league as a passer and what he's shown on tape over his first couple of years, it's definitely way more improved than anybody gave him credit for. So very long-winded question by me, but you guys can take the grabs on this. Justin Fields biases in the NFL draft, stock tanking. What are you guys seeing right now from your point of view?
Well, I'll say this. I'll let the Ravens flock take control of this in a second. We have made progress, though. No one has suggested that Justin Fields should play wide receiver or running back in the NFL. So we're making progress here.
You got it.
That's true. That's true. No, man, it's crazy. I thought it was going to.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, all right. No, I thought it was going to be like back in September. I thought all this talk was going to be with Trey Lance. I didn't think it was going to be with Justin Fields because, Trey Lance, he was opting out this season. So I'm like, all right, they're already going to come after him. He didn't have a lot of pass attempts during the season in 2019. He was a running quarterback. So I thought that narrative was going to be placed on him. And Justin Fields comes in, he lobbies for the Big Ten to play the season. He gets hurt, comes back, still balls out, and they're questioning his love for the game. And it's like everything is right in front of you. You don't hear anything bad about him. He's never been in trouble or anything like that. He's a leader on Ohio State's team. And it's like it doesn't matter what you do. No matter what you do, you're still going to get that label and those questions of whether you love the game, you have a passion for the game. And it's going to happen next year. It's going to happen the year after. But I'm glad that we have voices like JT O'Sullivan who will put people on blast, put the national media on blast.
Somebody got to say it, man.
Yeah. And I'm glad he did it because that JT O'Sullivan clip made its rounds all through social media. And hopefully with more people like him speaking out on it, it'll elevate the big media's, kind of hive mind that they have where these black quarterbacks have to change positions or, whether they love the game or not. Hopefully it'll elevate their game and let them have more intelligent conversations and fair conversations when it comes to these players.
Go ahead, Kerry.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, man, when you think about it. So the league, they say they want size. They say they want size at the position. They say they want production at the position. They say they want poise at the position, toughness at the position. Well, the guy has all of those things. So, what are we even talking about? And to boot, he's got athleticism. And this is not a guy that's out there just always looking to run. You see him poised to stay in the pocket, read the defense, go through progressions, and then he takes off running if nothing is there. Or if design run, then of course he's taking off. But, still we're having this conversation about, things that are kind of go to a point where it's coded language. We don't really have an excuse, so we got to try to find one. And then when we find one, we got to be very vague about it. I would for somebody to put their name on this stuff and really, if there's a specific issue, if there's something going on with him, tell me exactly what it is. Don't hide it and say, oh, well, there's leadership questions or, we have concern about how much he loves the game. If he didn't love the game, this guy went battled through the injuries that he battled through to lead his team. So, I mean, it's just so overt, man. It's just crazy that it's just out there and like a lot of people just aren't running it.
Mike, what you talking about?
Yeah, and I know we're not doing, the debate on society at large, but I think, we're always probably going to see some segment of the population, and that gets reflected even within the population of the NFL, who holds these kind of thoughts, right? And I try not to sugarcoat it and just say, look, what was really said was Justin Fields is lazy and dumb, right? So when you say last in, first out, doesn't love the game, one read quarterback, that's what you're saying. You're saying he's not smart enough and he's lazy, right? So like Harry said, that's how you feel, put your name on it.
Yeah.
Don't say anonymous league sources told me. And what's crazy about the Dan Orlovsky thing is he does a breakdown of Fields' tape, right? From a guy who played the quarterback position on NFL Network, and he's pointing out how he works through progressions, and he's talking about the timing and the accuracy and ball placement. Then he goes on Pat McAfee's show and says, "Well, somebody told me this." So look, don't play these games, right? Look, if you said one thing when you evaluated his film and how he played on the field, then own that and stand by that. Don't come with this other bull stuff and put that out there. You know, I don't know if I'm supposed to curse or not. So
no, you good. You good. We don't censor on the show. You good.
Okay. So don't try to put that bullshit out there. Okay. So that kind of thing just has always frustrated me. Obviously, as Ravens fans, we kind of had to see that play out with Lamar, and I think you still see it play out, even though he's done what he's done in some quarters. You still see people who will say, well, he's never going to be able to win. Right? First it was he couldn't win a playoff game, so he wins a playoff game. Well, now he'll never get out of the playoffs into the Super Bowl, right? So there's all these things. But yeah, I think what was important for me was seeing, and Kerry and Chris mentioned this, was seeing a guy like JT O'Sullivan put it out there, because obviously you see other Black players, Black coaches, you can see Black media members like Jim Trotter, they call that what it is, right? And that's what we're going to do. But seeing somebody like JT, it hits different, right? When it comes from him and he says, hey, let's get off this white QB savior thing, right? Let's get off this whole thing and let's just call this what this is, right? It hits different when it comes from him. And it makes a lot of people uncomfortable because it forces you to look at yourself, right? You really have to take a hard look at yourself and what do I believe? What do I think? Do I have those thoughts? Really? Everybody has bias. You just said it. We all do. Black, white, whatever. And sometimes it's not even racial. It's just we have biases, right? That goes back to earliest days of human evolution. I see something moving behind that bush. Is it a saber-toothed tiger or is it the wind? I mean, you had to have biases and you had to profile certain situations for survival. So that's hard coded into our DNA. It ain't going away. But trying to acknowledge that you have them is the first step, I think. And then being honest about talking about it is the next step. So I love that he did that.
And then got my brother Miggy hopping on the show for us. Coming to us live from NC. Miggy, what's in the cup, my guy?
Just a little beer. Something I found in the fridge. Had to put it in my Patriots mug real quick.
I had to make sure. As you know, we are huge Justin Fields supporters on the show. We were just having this conversation about biases. So I don't know if you had any Justin Fields takes.
I don't know if you guys mentioned. Nah, he was the first player to start that petition for the Big Ten to start playing football last fall. Like that right there says enough to me. It's
and I think the love of the game and the toughness questions that people are really asking after we as a country on New Year's Day all collectively hung over his shit, watched him piece up Clemson after he was knocked out of the game and couldn't even get on a stationary bike. I mean, that right there is just the laziest take and conversation point I think we could ever possibly make, because we all watched it right in front of us in one of the biggest games of the year. Like, it speaks for itself.
Definitely.
Yep.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers is hosting Jeopardy for 2 weeks. Does he not love football? Because he ain't sleeping and drinking football 24 hours a day. I mean, look,
Matt. I know if the Packers get off to a slow start, I know the Cheeseheads, they're gonna bring up him hosting Jeopardy. Let's keep it a buck, man. Let's keep it a buck.
And I think they'll call for Goody and LaFleur before they call for him.
All right, man. Where you want to take us on the show? We still have some more Ravens stuff. Before we get to the season.
I think this is actually kind of like talk about like Justin Fields and kind of like the parallels with the discussions with Lamar a couple of years ago. We've got three people obviously that follow the Ravens really closely, so I think this is kind of interesting to get your guys' perspective. We heard all the tired takes and narratives about him coming out of the draft, and I think a lot of people thought that the Ravens got a steal when they took him with the last pick of the first round in 2018. I guess when you guys watched him up close and personal, how quickly did you realize that all of the narratives were bullshit and that you had someone that, even if it wasn't, I guess, polished right away in that first playoff run in the last, 5 or 6 games when he replaced Flacco in the regular season, but you guys knew that you had something special in your hands, and once he went through another offseason, that it was going to be dynamite?
I'll let Kerry and Chris go. They're the stars of the show, so I always let them go first.
Go ahead, Kerry.
So yeah, I'll say for me, I knew before we even drafted him, he was my favorite player in that draft, and it was because he had the pocket presence, he had pocket awareness, pocket movement, and all of these things were things that weren't being highlighted, but you could just see it clearly. His game, he was a guy that always extend the play and make the big play down the field, and people got the explosive athletic ability and the running read option stuff. If you watch him maneuver in the pocket, you can't tell me he's not a quarterback next to Louisville. That's before he even got into the league. So, I was pretty comfortable with him from there. I know he had some base issues to kind of clean up. And I knew he had some stuff to clean up as far as throwing outside of the hash. But, other than that, I had no questions about him as a playmaker and as a player. So it was pretty easy to me to see that transition and to watch him get into the league, clean his base up pretty quickly, and improve as things went along as far as his accuracy and decision making and things of that nature. Has been great to see, and like he's a guy that's gonna work. Like there's no question about him. He enjoys the work, and I expect to see another jump from him, which is crazy because the guy won the MVP 2 years ago. But I expect to see another jump from him, and it's fortunate that he's gonna have to keep doing things like this just to some people that he is a quarterback.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'm with Kerry. That draft class, I thought it was obvious that he was a quarterback. I didn't think he was a gimmick. I didn't think he was, a guy that needed to change positions, like that was being put out there, like he needs to be a running back or a wide receiver. It was clear as day. You watch him manage the pocket, and he did it at a high level. That's not something that's easy or that's correctable. Like you could just do it 1, 2, 3. That's something that you innately have to have is feel for the pocket, when to get the ball out, when to leave. And he had all of that from day one. And like Kerry pointed out to, was he perfect? No. But, no prospect is perfect. So there were things that he needed to clean up. And like we saw him in Baltimore, he came in, for Flacco, like about the halfway point of the year, was able to save the Ravens season, take them to the playoffs, and then all through the offseason, we heard him working with his QB coach. And we saw that in the 2019 season where his hard work paid off. And, he took his game to another level. And, he definitely exceeded my expectations. And I thought he was going to have a good year. And he ended up winning the damn MVP. So, 2020, it was a little strange because, COVID restrictions and not being able to get to work with his coach, the normal work and the normal teamwork. But I think this season, the doubters they were out in full force for him again, and I think with a hopefully more normal offseason, he'll be able to make that next progression going into his 4th season.
Yeah, I think you heard both Kerry and Chris hit all the points, so I'll just echo some of them. I think all three of us thought he'd be good. None of us expected him to be as good as he's been as quickly as he's done it. And you guys mentioned Matt Waldman earlier in the show. I remember watching Lamar at Louisville, and I'm looking at him and I'm looking at the other quarterbacks in that draft class, and I'm thinking, man, this guy, just in terms of what he looks like in the pocket, he looks like the most poised guy in the pocket. He looks like the guy who's the most comfortable operating from the pocket. And I'm watching him, and for whatever reason, the player comp that jumps into my mind is Steve Young. Like an early Steve Young. I'm talking USFL, LA Express Steve Young, not necessarily, him at the end of his career with the 49ers where he really was a polished pocket passer. So I reached out to Matt. I said, Matt, am I crazy? I said, I'm seeing like Steve Young. People are comparing this guy to like a running back. I said, nah, that ain't it. I said, this guy, to me, he has all of the tools that you want from a pocket passer. He just happens to be the most dynamic player on the field with the ball in his hand every time he steps on the field. So it was really like a conundrum for me because I'm like, this guy is a pocket passer. He's also the freakiest damn athlete on the field. And you just don't see that. And so when people talked about his accuracy issues coming out of college and even what we saw, as he stepped in kind of the second half of 2018 and then, obviously 2019 was magical. To me, those were all mechanical, and they still are. They still are to this day. This is all mechanical. This is a guy who can throw the ball, right? He can throw the ball anywhere on the field, place it anywhere you want him to play, to place it with touch, with accuracy, with velocity. He can do all of that. But, his quarterback coach himself has said that he gets away from his fundamentals sometimes, right? His base, he doesn't keep his base clean. You'll see him kind of pop up and down and change his platform. You'll see him drop his arm angle. He can do all of those things. And, with that Steve Young comparison, I remember reading Steve Young's book, and he talked about that because Steve Young was actually a high school option quarterback. A lot of people didn't know that. He said he went to BYU. He couldn't even throw a spiral. He had to teach himself how to do it. And he threw like thousands and thousands and thousands of balls just to teach himself how to throw, a spiral and how to become a passer. But he said for guys who are good athletes, who are really, really high level athletes, sometimes the mechanical part takes a little bit more time for them, not because it's a comprehension thing, like they can't do it, but because they don't have to do it. They're so good athletically that they can make the plays. You see it with Mahomes. Nobody would look at Mahomes. No QB coach would look at Mahomes and say, do it like that. Right? Play like that guy. No QB coach would say it, but he's so damn good athletically that he can get away with it. So Steve Young's point was sometimes it takes a little bit longer for guys who are really, really good athletes to trust the fundamentals and get to that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning level where you just do the same thing like a robot. Every single drop, every single play. It looks the same. Ball comes out on time. Hit the check down. Hit the underneath guy, right? It's boring. Right. But that's how those guys made their living, right? By just taking what you gave them and playing the quote-unquote boring game. And then as soon as you made the mistake, boom, right, they strike. So I think that's the next evolution for Lamar is to continue to work on those fundamentals. And I guess to sum it all, it's consistency. That's really all it is with him. It's consistency. We know he's got all the talent in the world. We've seen him make all his splash plays in the world. Now it's just about the consistency. Can you do the small things, the attention to detail kind of things at a ridiculously high level? Because we know you got all the freak shit. We know that. But now can you do the mundane routine kind of things that you sometimes have to do? We saw that in the Bills game, right? They were more than happy to sit back in zone and just say, hey, man, I dare you to check it down or throw it underneath all the way down the field. I dare you, because I don't think you'll do it. I don't think you have the patience to do it. And he did. So, I mean, that's part of young quarterbacks sometimes, right? They want to make plays, and they don't always want to take those check downs and those underneath throws because they want to make it happen, So I think that's kind of the next step for him.
I don't think he gets enough credit either. Everyone loves talking about Mahomes and all the crazy off-platform stuff he could do, which is obviously a one-of-one. He's in a tier by himself. But I've seen Lamar on more than one occasion whip out a little sidearm, two-seam fastball into a tight window, and it's different. Like you said, like that jumps out on tape, and not a lot. Sorry, I can't hear if someone's talking. If someone is, go ahead.
No.
Oh no, I thought I heard someone talking about that.
You good, man. You good.
Nah, but yeah, like he's got some of the off-platform stuff that is unscripted that you just can't teach. That goes back to like you said, he is the freakiest athlete at all times on the field. And I think that kind of like how this narrative, from afar, I don't follow the Ravens as closely as you guys do, but from what it looks like from afar, 2019, obviously they build the entire offense around him, and 2020 was as well. But 2019, it was just such a different look, and it was so dynamic and explosive. And I don't think a lot of defenses really knew how to prepare for it. He wins MVP his second year in the league, which is obviously really, really special. Like, not a lot of guys do that. And then I think that this past year, like Sean and I have discussed it, amongst others, like it was just kind of natural regression, and like there's going to be the adjustment. And now it's about the adjustment to the adjustment. But like you said, too, there are also the narratives that come with black quarterbacks. And when they come out of the draft, a lot of time, big Raz. There's also this, the narratives that we heard when he was coming out of the draft were also reattached this past year when that offense came back to life. So you guys watching it up close and personal every single week. This past year when the offense wasn't as explosive, how much of it was, like you just talked about, Lamar not sticking to the fundamentals maybe as much as you would like, to the wide receiver core, which we're going to get to at some point in this discussion, just not being all that dynamic. And then 3, Greg Roman being a little more predictable and maybe not adjusting to the adjustments as much as you guys and the Ravens would have liked.
You guys want me to start? Okay, I'll start this time. Because the Greg Roman thing is a trigger for me, but I'm not going to go too far off on that.
Let's get it. Let's get these takes off.
Mike is going to go off into his Greg Roman propaganda.
No, they 2 full years as a starter, they scored more points than any team in the league over those 2 years. But anyway, he can't coach offense. So I think it's a little bit of all of those things, right? I think people, all of us, it's easier if you can point to one thing, right? If you can boil it down and say, oh, it was this or it was that. But I think it was a little bit of all of those things that you mentioned. I'd start with the offensive line as well too. You don't want to oversimplify, but if you go back and look at 2019, when he had that stability at offensive line, and really I think they had the same 5 starters up until that Rams game where their center got hurt. And then, even at that point, they had to replace the center and play with a rookie backup, actually a guy who had played tackle in college and now he's playing center. But the other 4 guys were able to stay at their same spots. So when they had that consistency and stability and quality players on the offensive line, I think, you saw what Lamar could do. And then 2020, obviously you lose your right guard, Marshall Yanda, he retires. So you got to fill that spot. You're kind of doing that with a mix of different guys. Then your left tackle, Ronnie Stanley, gets hurt. Now you got to flip your right tackle over to left tackle. And it just created a domino effect that kind of played like musical chairs throughout the season. And that's going to be tough for any quarterback. I mean, we mentioned Mahomes. We saw that in the Super Bowl, right? When you lose your tackles, he had played with some different guys being injured on their O-line too. But when we finally got to, okay, now you got like 3 different backups in there. Even as good as he is, it's hard to overcome that. So I think it's hard to underestimate the effect that the offensive line had. But I wouldn't be keeping it real if I didn't say, hey, Lamar, had some things that he could have done better in terms of his consistency and the fundamentals. Same thing with Greg Roman. As much as I defend him, you've got to continue to, like you said, adjust to the adjustments because the league had a whole offseason to see what 2019 was, right? To go back and look at that and to study that. So, it's that constant chess match in the NFL. When you do something like that, how are you going to kind of keep one-upping yourself and keep evolving? So I think it's a little bit of all of that.
Hey, hold on. Before we get your answer, Chris. Hold on. Yeah, let's shout out my brother Raz. Raz, what it do, bro? You hopping on here? Better late than never. But what's good, my guy? How you?
Rainy Sunday. What's going on? It is what it is. It is. I thank you everybody for hopping on with us. I'm sorry that I'm tardy. The world is a little bit unpredictable, but we're gonna power through this. Get through y'all Ravens. I know the flock is strong. I have adverse feelings for the Ravens, but I'm gonna let y'all do what y'all do, and then we can break down the wide receivers too. So happy y'all joining us. I missed the intro, so I do have to tell everybody I am coming live from Queens, New York. But let's get right back into it.
Go ahead, Chris. You can answer the Greg Roman slander off, I suppose.
Yeah, so the thing with me is it all starts with the offensive line. Like the way the offensive line goes, the way this team goes. And I'm sure that's, with every team in the NFL. But last year they only had 2 guys who were consistent starters every game. It was Orlando Brown and Bradley Bozeman. If that's going to happen on your offensive line for any team, it's not going to be successful. So no matter who the offensive coordinator is that you have, it's going to be rough. And to look at what that offense went through, with the COVID stuff, the offensive line shuffling around, I think Greg Roman actually did a good job when you sit back and look at all they had to deal with because they still made it to the playoffs. They still won a playoff game. And for, everything that went on, it's like that's pretty damn hard to do. Like that's difficult to give that to your offensive coordinator. And they went through, they missed Lamar for that game and they had to start RG3 and then try to win a damn game with Trace McSorley. Even Tyler Huntley had to get into the damn game. So I think people just, sweep that under the rug, but that's a lot to overcome, man. That's a lot to overcome. So like Mike said, Greg Roman's not without his faults. I mean, there are Chiefs fans I know that, get after Andy Reid about some of the play calls that he has. So there's always going to be people that are, second guessing something that doesn't work. Like if you go for it on 4th down, if you choose the wrong play and it doesn't work, you're stupid. But if you choose the right play and it works, you're brilliant. It's always a double-edged sword with that. But I don't think he's the main problem. I don't think Lamar's the main problem. I don't think the wide receivers are the main problem. Can they all do better? Of course they could all do better. But I think the main thing is it has to be up front, the offensive line. I think if they stay healthy and they play at a high level, I think everybody gets better. Lamar gets better. He trusts his linebackers. He trusts his fundamentals. the receivers be able to have time to actually get open. The run game improves. Greg Roman can call, more plays where it's not like, all right, we got to get the ball out of Lamar's hands because these guys cannot block. So I think everybody has to just get better, but it's mainly with the offensive line for me. That's where it starts.
Kerry, how you feeling?
And I mean, just they kind of echo what these two guys are saying, that it really is, one of those things where we try to find one particular reason, but the answer is usually a little bit of everything. And I mean, what are we really talking about here? This team scored more points than anybody over the last 2 years, but what we're talking about is the playoff performances. And so the playoff performances have come down to two things. One is turnovers, which has been a huge thing. And then secondly, when they've been forced to throw, they look uncomfortable doing it. There's not a cohesion there. So, I mean, that's really what I'm looking for. And I'm sure everybody there, in the castle there, into a move is to just make it more cohesion, forced to throw. And we're talking about a team that's on a short list of winning the Super Bowl. When it comes down to cleaning up those two things. So, I mean, just to kind of echo on what these two guys said, because the offensive line is the biggest thing, because Lamar won an MVP throwing to the same guys in 2019. And then in 2020, he doesn't have nearly the same success throwing the football. And all you got to do is look at the offensive line. Not to say that that's the only reason, but when you have that cohesion and everything in the offensive line one year and you don't have it the next year, I mean, it's just huge. I mean, you look at the playoff game and Jerry Hughes looked like Lawrence Taylor. They could not. I mean, you can't win that way. So, that's basically what it boils down to is, they have to clean up that the playoffs, scoring 10 points is going to get you where you need to go.
It's actually funny, like looking at the Packers up close and personal for my job. It's kind of funny actually seeing the similarities here between two fan bases that are clamoring for another wide receiver or two. Both of them lost their star left tackles right after they paid them. Ronnie Stanley, I mean, what was 4 or 5 days after he got paid this year? David Bakhtiari was the last practice of the season, the regular season, week 17, and then that came back to bite them in the ass in the NFC Championship game. The difference, obviously, in Green Bay is Lamar Jackson is not quite Aaron Rodgers yet, and I don't think, with all due respect to Marquise Brown is ever going to turn into Devontae Adams. But on the subject of that wide receiver group, you look at it going into 2021, and it's largely the same group of guys. Sans, you add Sammy Watkins from Kansas City. Apparently, they talked to Juju. They talked to Juju Smith-Schuster, and he made the terrible decision to go play with a washed-up Ben Roethlisberger instead of having a star role.
I mean, he wasn't trying to block. He wasn't trying to block for 17 games, so there's also that.
I'll let y'all get to that in a second, but the 1 through 4 on the wide receiver depth chart right now looks like Hollywood again, Sammy Watkins. Miles Boykin seems a little bit intrigued to me. Devin Duvernay is kind of, a straight line drive guy. Returner, I mean, obviously super explosive in the open field. And then, obviously, Lamar's number one pass catcher is always probably going to be Mark Andrews. So I guess the question that kind of needs to be addressed here is two things. One, are you guys comfortable with that going into this season? And two, I think that you guys, Kerry just kind of hit on it. There's been this discussion about whether this is an offense that can come back when they face deficits, just because they've looked uncomfortable throwing the football with that wide receiver group. So what needs to change for that to not be something that holds them back anymore?
I love the addition of Sammy Watkins, and I'll talk about him a little bit and the rest of the guys. But for me, the biggest upgrade they made to their wide receiving core was Keith Williams. It was as a coach, right? They brought in Doug Williams as their passing game coordinator. It was weird how they had the titles that they gave him. So they gave T. Martin. They also hired T. Martin is the wide receiver coach, but Dub is the passing game coordinator. So however the titles shake out, you mentioned being a Green Bay Packers fan. You probably know Keith has trained Devontae Adams.
I cover team. I'm a Jets fan, unfortunately. I made terrible life decisions way too early.
Okay, my bad. But yeah, so he's trained Devontae Adams. He's worked with Sammy Watkins. He's worked with other guys around the league. So he's kind of known for really helping guys develop their game and kind of take it to another level. So for me, I think that's actually the biggest upgrade that they made, is getting somebody in to really work with, really is, by and large, a young wide receiver room. I mean, Sammy's got a few years on him, but the other guys we talked about are all really young. So getting, Dub in, getting T Martin in to really help work these guys, help them work their craft, I think is going to be huge. Sammy, I really like the addition of Sammy because I think he brings something that they don't necessarily have in terms of skill set, right? Sammy, as I watched a bunch of his 2020 games after they signed him, he's still got that run after catch ability, and he does it quickly. I mean, he goes from receiver to runner in like 2 steps, right? He's really good at that. Now, obviously, everybody knows about his injury history, and that's the thing that, people are kind of going to latch on to, and it's fair. I mean, it's part of the record. You can't ignore it. But when he's on the field, even going back to their Super Bowl run in the biggest games where they need plays, yeah, it's Kelsey, yeah, it's Tyreek, but it's also Sammy, So he was a first-round pick, a high first-round pick too, right? I forget how high he went, but he has.
Did he go 4?
It was high. I can't remember the number, but it was
10,
high.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So he's obviously got the talent and the pedigree, and he's had his best year statistically was in a great run offense.
I think it was
right?
4.
Going back to Buffalo in 2015, that was his best year statistically. So he's got familiarity with Greg Roman's offense. And when you talk about the other guys, Hollywood, I think we started to see towards the second half, the end of last season, that they finally were just like, you know what, just get the man the ball, right? Don't worry about everything being a 20 or 30 yard down the field target. Get it to him short, get it to him underneath, just get him the ball, put the ball in his hands. Yeah, he's a small dude, put the ball in his hands and let him make plays. And he did that. You saw that kind of in the Titans game, had a good game there. You saw a couple games towards the end of the season, even though it wasn't a great against some of the greatest competition when you think about the Giants and the Jags and stuff like that. But, the guy made plays when you got him.
Hey, that Browns game, though, that Browns Monday night game was maybe the game of the year, and he came up with the biggest play of the game.
He did, after having a couple of drops early in that game. He struggled with a couple of drops early, but he, when it was time to show and prove, he did that. So I think he's a guy that you just have to trust to make plays and just get, keep feeding him, right? Even if he has, a game like that Browns game where maybe there's some drops early on, I think you got to keep feeding him because he does have that sort of game breaker element to his game. Miles Boykin is a guy who a lot of Ravens fans, real polarizing guy because, all the measurables are there, right? And you look at how he tested, but you don't see it on the field.
I was a huge fan. Yeah, I was a huge fan of coming out.
Yeah, that just hasn't shown up on the field the way that it showed up at that combine track. So, still a young player, still developing player. I like him probably more than a lot of other Ravens fans just because I think he really fits what they do and how they play. And then you talk about other guys like Devin Duvernay, another fast guy. I'm probably one of the older guys in this group. So I've always comped him to like Brian Mitchell, right, from back in the day from the Washington. That's how he runs to me, right? He's like straight ahead. I'm going to run through you or run past you, stiff arm you. He's not necessarily a guy with a whole lot of wiggle or shake, but just a really physical guy who has really good hands. I mean, doesn't put the ball on the ground, right? So I actually like their wide receiver core. Kerry and Chris will tell you I've never felt like in any of these previous seasons under Lamar that the reason they didn't win games, even the playoff games, was because they didn't have good enough wide receivers. I really don't think that's the reason. Kerry mentioned it to me. It always starts with the turnovers. 4 playoff games, 14 turnovers. I don't think people realize it's been that many. 14. So
to be fair, in that Titans game, Lamar's receivers did him. Hell, Mark Andrews included in that.
It's true.
There was a drop, but again, there's
both ways. Yep.
There's plays on both sides, right? Where guys are going to have drops. That's part of the game. But then you've also got to be able to connect on certain throws and not, throw like gimme interceptions too at times. So I mean, it goes both ways. But you're never going to hear me say you shouldn't try to add a very good wide receiver. I mean, that's just stupid. If you got a guy who you can add who's a really, really good player at wide receiver, you try to do that every single time. But is that the reason that they haven't been winning these games? I don't really feel like it is. I know I'm in the minority on that, but that's just how I feel. I mean, guys got 65 passing touchdowns in 2 years, right? He's been a starter for 2 full seasons. Guess how many other guys got more than him? 4. Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, Russell Wilson, I think Tom Brady. So people say, well, their passing game sucks. Well, offense is about scoring points, right? It ain't about yards and catches. It's about points. 65 passing touchdowns, 4th most. They score points in the passing game. They just don't have a lot of volume in their passing game, but they score points.
Yeah, sure. And the actual when we get to the playoffs, it's single elimination, and sometimes we can't harp too much on. Yeah, you got eliminated, but you know what I'm saying. You got like the fact that he's getting them to these actual situations definitely is more of a medal in Lamar's stand than usual. I think Kerry and Chris, so we can move on a little bit into the actual receivers because I think Mike did a super good job of covering the Ravens receiving room. So I think as we look at 27. I actually, because the same thing as I was prepping for this show, I'm like, yeah, the receiving core could use one more piece, but it's not in a horrible, it's not depleted, it's not barren. It could definitely use another playmaker that could really open things up. So, Kerry, they have the 27th pick. Kerry and Chris will open this up to you guys. What do you guys think the Ravens will be leaning? Is it BPA or is there a receiver that you think will be at 27 that could really unlock a next level? What you guys thinking for that pick? Or were you thinking like more of a second and third round where they might take a receiver? Where you guys are at that currently?
I'll go first. It's always BPA.
I'm thinking more BPA.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go BPA because when you try to panic and then you just want to have your mindset on wide receiver, you pick up Rashad Perriman, and that's not where we want to go. You know what I'm saying? So this team has always been a BPA team, and that formula has worked. They're one of the most successful franchises in the NFL.
Yeah, yep.
So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And just the way the board stacks and the way it looks, I feel like it's either going to be offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman, or an edge defender. Because I think this group has a lot of different flavors as far as the edge class is concerned. And they lost Matt Judon, they lost Yannick Ngakoue, and there are a lot of good guys that are in this class. Whether it's Azeez Ojulari if he makes it that far, Jalen Phillips, Kwity Paye, you got Joseph Osai even. So there's a lot of guys who can fit what the Ravens like to do on defense. So I do believe it'll be a BPA situation.
Where you at with it, Kerry?
I don't really, unless maybe a Bateman falls, which I don't think. I think it's going to be more edge first. When you look at it, I know nobody's going to want to hear this, especially Ravens, but I don't see this team throwing more than year. And honestly, I don't think they throw more than this year. They score points than by the last year running the offense the way they run it. To me, it's more being more threatening in these. And I think Sammy Watkins coming in there and replacing Miles Boykin does that. And it's about just, again, forced to throw the ball. Once we get second, third round, obviously they need a Castillo, and he is 3. It's not a situation, looking for this next big, because it's feel like the number is a myth. One quote on, because you even know what a receiver is. It just comes back to have the compliment and where a defensive coordinator have to have speed, what seconds can need, and giving them a guy different from Boykin that he can kind of separate experience and
No, so I do that. I think we can move more onto the actual receiver portion of the show because we've gone about 50 minutes. I think we get into the entree for the show. All right, so we got Raz. I think we could talk about the class at large and get general thoughts here as we move around the room. Raz, I think we can start with you on this, my guy. So what's your quick landscape of this receiving class from top to bottom? Who are your favorite guys available right now, and just overall, who are guys that just stick out to you that's like this guy is going to be a playmaker on the next level?
Well, I mean, obviously you got like the top guys that everyone knows about. You got the Waddle, you got Devontae, you got those type of guys. But I mean, those guys are going to go pretty high. I mean, Kyle Pitts, however you want to categorize him, he just catches passes, obviously. But we'll keep
receiver
him.
That plays
that's what I'm saying. So it's like it's one of those things. I mean, I think you got to start getting into like some of the guys that's going to be value guys, right? Because I mean, I think this class is deep. We've had a bunch of deep receiver classes the last couple of years, so there's been a lot of decent talent that's coming out. But there's also going to be a lot of guys that fall second, third, fourth round that you can kind of get into. So I'm a home South Carolina fan, so I'll start with Shi Smith. He's probably a little bit more of a developmental slot kind of guy. But then you got Tylan Wallace, Elijah Moore, Amon-Ra.
Let's get to the Shi Smith, Raz. What's your thoughts on I got the tape. I'll pull it up. So what's your thoughts on the Shi Smith? Obviously, I think since we can start here, this is a super deep slot receiver class.
Yeah.
If you don't know, I don't think if you want more of the big body X receiver guys in this class, you know what I'm saying? There's a couple guys who might, you got Jamar Chase who, I don't even think he's the biggest body guy receiver that you look at. He's probably like 6'1", super physical, aggressive, violent after the catch, the type of stuff you want to see. But the normal, big receiver guys, I don't necessarily think you're going to find that in this class. It's a lot of slot receiver guys. So what's your take on the Shi Smith? He made a lot of big plays out of the slot. We're gonna have we'll have some tape that can accompany with this. So yeah, you could go ahead on the Shi Smith, Raz.
So on the next level, he has a bunch of things he's still gonna have to work on. But I think you need to start with his toughness and his run after catch. Like right here. That's just pure speed, right? Like he has that jet. He's built like a running back, more so like what's his name? He's built just like dude on the 49ers. What's his name? I'm blanking right now. Debo.
They're both similar.
Yeah, they're similar kind of guys, same school, whatever. But like Shi, he makes more plays up the ladder. Like he'll go up and get it too. So I think that's kind of the difference. And he's gonna be somewhere. He's gonna fall third, fourth round. And whoever's gonna get him is gonna get somebody that's gonna make that 54-man roster who can help in punt return, kick return, and he's gonna be able to make an impact right away.
Street saying South Carolina wide receiver Deebo Samuel, Brian Edwards, Chase Smith.
Brian Edwards is my guy, man. We should say we should start looking more at these Gamecock receivers, but like. Clemson's talking to town right now. That's pretty cyclical. So we'll see when Carolina back on top in another decade. But yeah, it's gonna be quite some time. We need Dabble to go down for some type of crime.
Yeah, man. I mean, Shi Smith, man. I took a look at him down at the Senior Bowl, and he was giving them fits on one-on-ones. Shouldn't have even been legal for them to have him running one-on-one routes against those boys because he was
same catch right there too.
He did that same one-handed catch in the one-on-ones in the Senior Bowl, and that's something that you see where he's not shy when it comes to contact or anywhere within his routes or through his routes. He's gonna go up and get that ball.
Yeah, and that's the difference. I was saying, like in that comparison to Deebo, like obviously they're similar, but like he's gonna go up and get it, and like his catch radius is much bigger than somebody like Deebo. So I'm just saying in the slot, if you can really integrate him into your offense, you're gonna have a playmaker for quite some time in that slot.
Also, shout out to Rios. I mean, we'll give a shout out to blocking wide receivers here. But Deebo Samuel is a fucking bully on the blocks, and he's actually a difference maker at blockers. So shout out
some Rios. Of this, shout out to the yards after contact. That's, like you said, because Shi he's not afraid of the contact, Rez, and I do think that's one of the more like appealing things of him. I think he might be limited to slot work at the next level, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for him. See him; he can win deep. He can win deep, which you see it a lot with the slot guys. You know what I'm saying? It's a big thing. If you can win vertically at the slot, you know, that's a big, you know, if you have one of those quarterbacks that can push the ball down the field, you know, that's something that could really be valuable at the next level. I think, Chris, we could actually stay with you because you loved some Tylan Wallace talk. So since we're already on the topic, we could talk about Tylan Wallace and you put up his film.
Yeah, man, Tylan Wallace, he's actually the first wide receiver I watched, I think in like December. And he was the one I fell in love with right away because I saw a guy who was, you know, obviously a hard worker. You know, he had a big sophomore year, junior year was looking like he was probably going to declare. Then he ended up tearing his ACL in practice in 2019, so he had to go back. But he was a guy that came back 9 months after tearing his ACL. And he had to train by himself at home because of COVID restrictions. So a guy that's going to bust his ass like that to be back on the field and then seemingly almost not even miss a beat for his senior year in 2020. And he was just back to, you know, doing the same old things where he's, you know, making those combat catches where there are guys draped all over him. And you know, it looks like, why is a quarterback throwing the ball this way? And then you see here where he has the yards after catch, and he's going to throw a mean stiff arm coming up right now, and he's just going to throw this dude right out of here. So, you know, he's my guy. He's only 5'11", but he does not know that. In his head, he's 6'3". So he's a guy that I love, man. And a lot of guys, they want to get on his injury history, but the ACL, that's the only injury that he's had at OSU. And, you know, not to say ACL is, you know, something you just like, all right, whatever. No, it's, you know, it's something that you have to note because it did happen. But this isn't a guy that's always injured or, you know, you have to monitor say a guy I bring up is Jalen Phillips, a guy who's had multiple injuries over and over and over again. So he's not that guy. But I think whoever gets him, they're going to get a dude who can, you know, really scare defenses over the top. He could play multiple positions, in my opinion, although he didn't do it at OSU.
They played him at the same position. Yep.
Yeah, they just threw him out to the right side, which is what they do because they did the same thing with Washington the year he came out. So they didn't do him any favors by just throwing him on the outside and say, "Here, just win one-on-one right there." I think
that last play that I showed was a perfect example of something I love. You don't love, like, there's a lot of receivers who mess around going east and west too much. He's somebody who grabs the ball and is looking north. He's looking upfield all the time. Yeah. Those are the yak guys that you love to see. I think there's another play we could run right here, but yeah, he has interesting. It's an interesting profile because he's a super silky route runner. He's pretty good at creating separation, and I think another one of the things that he really does is contortion in the air. You know, his understanding of where he's at on the field has been awesome. I think that's another thing. We're just talking about IQ right here. You can tell he knows he's by the sidelines, and it takes a different, like, just knowing the geometry of the field. When we talking like wide receiver acumen, these are things that come to play right here. It's another play right here. I titled it Willie Mays because we talking about the degree of difficulty on this throw. You know, I mean on this catch. You know, it's harder than it looks. It looks pretty easy on the replay, but you know what I'm saying, to make that grab over your shoulder, I think we got another look at it right here. But yeah, Tylan Wallace is super interesting. Chris, where do you think he'll end up going in the actual draft?
I think he'll go like in the late second, maybe early third. But yeah, I think he'll go there just because he doesn't have the desired measurables that you would want. He's not a tall guy. He's not a long guy. He doesn't have the timed 4.3 speed, but if another shout out to the Matt Waldman RSP. If you read up on him in there, Matt Waldman says he was one of the top 3 fastest wide receivers as far as the GPS tracking is concerned. So you could run a 4.3, you could do all of that in the combine or your pro day, but I want to know how fast you are on the field, and he was one of the top 3 fastest on the field.
Yep, and he can win at all 3 levels. So that's another thing that also sticks out for you. I think we could pass this off to you, Matt. So we talking about some of your favorite receivers in this class. Who comes to mind for you? It's just dynamic playmakers on the next level. Just in general, guys that you're a fan of.
Well, a couple of guys that I've just taken a little bit of a closer look at just in terms of I think they could be interesting if they ended up in Green Bay are Rondale Moore and Kadarius Toney out of Florida. Just two really electric guys with the ball in their hands that can kind of operate that short game in space. And if you get them blockers out in front, they're going to create something out of it. And I think that they could really fit in well in a Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur scheme. I know that Moore is probably like a fringe top 5 prospect in terms of consensus where he's going to go. Toney maybe a little bit beyond that. But those are two guys. If I need a receiver and I get them at the end of the first round, early second, I would be very, very happy. Because, I mean, the consensus top 3 or 4, when you talk about Chase, Smith, Waddle, and I guess Kyle Pitts, those guys are all going in the top 15, I want to say. So you're paying a hefty price. And I'm not saying that they're not going to be worth it. But if you could get guys that are this explosive and dynamic with the ball in their hands, late first, early second, I think that's a steal any day of the week.
So I think Rondale is pretty interesting. Yeah, go ahead, because I think I'll let you go, but I think Rondale, because I would love the thoughts of the room or more. So I think he's one of the more polarizing guys in this class. And like I said earlier, it's a class full of these like pogo stick, hyper athletic, slot guys. But it's a couple guys in his thing. So how does the room feel about Rondale and his NFL perspectives? I don't know who's trying to cop in there, but go ahead.
That's me. So I'm a pretty big fan of him. This is a loaded wide receiver class. I think, if you don't grab one of these top 3, top 4 guys, you are going to do pretty well on day 2, day 3, grabbing somebody that can, be an immediate impact. But more what I see the difference in just watching tape this year, I saw a lot of prospects that couldn't read soft zones. You got a defense reading, playing zone. And one thing that Moore did over and over again is just adjusted his speed. Sometimes it just takes slowing down just a little bit for that quarterback to hit you in a soft zone. And, once he's got the ball in his hands, he's pretty dynamic. I know the trajectory and the history for these 5'7" guys isn't too great. We got Taylor Gabriel up there from what I read. But no, I think he's a little different. And same with Toney, Kadarius Toney. I know Matt was talking about him. The only knock on him is, durability and just his height. But I think, the comparisons I see for him are Debo Samuel and Curtis Samuel. So, if that's going to be the case, then I would gladly take him, beginning of the second round, late first.
I think I'm just kind of past really caring about height. If you're dynamic in the open field and you could fit now, if you're 5'7" and you're 130, that's a different story. But if you're 5'7" with a little bit of meat on your bones and you could take NFL hits, I'm not really all that worried about your height because NFL, especially creative NFL offenses, are going to find ways to get the ball in your hands and let you do what you do best. And that's why, like I said, I think Rondale Moore or Kadarius Toney in Green Bay would be interesting. I'm on a couple of other teams because I think that they're going to play to their strengths and not make them operate outside of what they do best.
Yeah, I think you guys hit it on the head with his size. That's just as far as the NFL landscape is concerned. There aren't a lot of guys with this profile and the dimensions that he has. But the way the game is moving, I think we kind of have to adjust what, the expectations that we have for these smaller wide receivers, because a guy like Tyreek Hill, he's changed how you look at these guys because, there is a place for them. It's just, are these offensive coordinators going to catch up to, these smaller, quicker guys who can do damage with the ball in their hands and get them in space? And we see here where they use them on the end around. You got to get creative with these guys because there's no debating that he is a dynamic player and there is a place for him on every offense.
You know what I think about, kind of talking on the Packers? I think about when I see clips like this? Where would Tavon Austin be ranked and where would he go if he came out in the 2021 draft instead of 2011 or whatever it was?
Forgot about him.
Yeah, man.
Still the best college highlights maybe I've ever seen.
It just feels like he was so far ahead of his time. And by the time he got to an offense that really played to his strengths was with McVay in the Rams in 2017 or 18. And by that point, his physical prime was probably gone. But yeah, it just kind of makes me wonder because he was with the Packers for a little bit this year.
It's a great run. Look at that.
Wait, what? Tavon Austin was on the Packers?
Yeah, they signed him week 11 or 12, something like that. He didn't really do much.
Clearly. But I'm just I had no clue that was a thing. as much sports as we cover, bro. Like I don't know, man. That's out of control. I'm gonna have to take a deep look inside.
Sean, Sean, where you at on Rondale? Sean, you're muted, bro.
Nah, man, Rondale is good. He's really nasty, and like you said, you got to be creative to use guys like that. And I think it's a perfect point about Tavon Austin about the best offensive coordinators know how to get their guys in advantageous circumstances. 5'7", 170. Woo, that's gonna be rough, man. I don't it's gonna be hard for him to run anything in the middle. Like he's gonna be nasty on crossing routes. But even I think somebody like this is a different body type. But you talk about it with how he has that Maurice Jones-Drew's ability of contact balance. You know what I'm saying? It's really hard. Right. The little guys are kind of like, we got a couple guys who play DB, and I even thinking about it out loud. This class of receivers is a safety's it's a safety's nightmare, because if you take a horrible pursuit angle, it's one cut and it's a lot of guys who are just gonna run by you. It's guys who have that, and it's funny because I think if we're talking about we've seen the nice clock, the nice watch that a lot of these pro days and 40 times that we've seen, these inflated times. But this class is fast. Like I know I've seen a lot of people make that point. But I don't know what the error time that they give him 40. I think it's a couple seconds that you probably got to take off of it. But a lot of these guys are fast. So with Rondale, I definitely think fit is going to be a big concern with him, because, like you said, I do think he possesses the ability to win vertically out of the slot, and that's kind of just a huge advantage. But I think somebody who's kind of similar like to him that I think is more of a natural receiver. Somebody who I'm a huge fan of that we can pull up this tape. But Elijah Moore is somebody who I think he possesses a lot of these. It's funny because they have the same last name, but they're pretty similar. Elijah Moore is that I think he's 5'9", so he's a little bigger.
I'm looking at it right now. 5'9", 185.
5'9", 185, and yeah, he's out of that. Yeah, he's out of that same Ole Miss class. I believe he played behind
not DK, built. He is not built like AJ or DK. It must be said, but yes.
No, he's from the same. He's from the. They share the same alma mater. They're not in the same physical tier at all. Even those guys are both are freaks. But he was a freshman when both of those guys were out there, and I've seen a lot of great stuff from him. He's pretty tough for a shorter guy, and he has that dynamic run after catch ability. And like you said, I think. Looking at what he did, his rookie season, he caught over. One thing for Rondo, I think I just wanted to mention because he was on my mind. But he caught like 100 grabs his freshman season, Rondale, and I think that's another one of the things that just scares me, because if you look at Rondale Moore, before I get to Elijah, if you look at Rondale Moore's freshman tape, it's insane. But the 19, I believe it was an injury or something before he got hurt, and then this year he definitely called out of the season. The COVID shortened season, I think he had a leg injury. So, but we didn't get a chance to see him follow up what he did in his freshman season. So that's my only question with Rondale. I would just love to see more about him, how his receiving look, because 2018 to 2021 is a long time, and a lot of advancement. But yeah, how you guys feel about Elijah Moore? I don't know if you guys have any takes on him, but we can run some of this tape as you guys hop in here.
Who played quarterback for Ole Miss this year?
Oh, I forget dude's name, but he had some. Yeah, so it's another catching traffic. So that's something for these little guys. You want to see, it's more of a mentality thing for these young guys. Like he puts, like I said, the sluggo is such just a nasty route. If you're a safety, that's such a hard route to contain.
It is.
But yeah, especially like for a little guy, you love seeing a catching traffic like that, because you gotta be able to take that hit and keep going. It's not everybody wants to. I don't even like somebody like Robbie Anderson.
He popped up, said fuck yeah, and took the flag. So it's another 15 on top of it.
And yeah, this is another grab. This is make or miss. You love this. You love to see that, and feisty after the catch. That's what you love to see. But like you guys said, I think the phylum and the tier of these shorter receivers being able to win, and it comes back to. We can talk about like getting off at the line of scrimmage, and you talk about the rule changes that happen in the league right now, and I think this is him winning on a vertical route. But yeah, man, the rule change it make it really difficult to stop these guys at the line of scrimmage. So I mean, yeah, Elijah Moore is just somebody who I think in the proper scheme, I think he has a lot more like natural receiving ability than Moore. But we can still hop around. I mean, Mig, any other guys that catch your attention, receivers that you're a fan of out of this class?
I've got Tamorian Terry out of Florida State that I like. With him, the only thing I worry about is, he had a lot of drops in his career. So, drops. He's not too quick, off the line, and then also, he's got to work on his, some of his routes and just developing that. But when it comes to size, especially in this draft class, we don't see. I think he's about 6'3", 6'4", 200, 210. He's pretty good. I like him. Great for the red zone. I think he'll create some problems. I don't think he'll be a number one. He'll never be a number one, I don't think. But as a number two receiver, I think we'll see something great out of Terry. And then I have my super sleeper with Elijah Cooks. I don't know if you've got anything on him. I can
get to the Cooks real quick. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Elijah Cooks. He missed all of. I think he got hurt in the first game,
but if you look at Elijah Cooks, though, he led Nevada with catches in 2019, touchdowns. He probably has one of the nicest highlight reels, out of any of these receivers with the one-hand catches. He's got great size, 6'4", 6'4", 215, if I'm not mistaken, 6'4", 220. I've seen some comparisons to Kenny G. We got Allen Light out here, but they're not expecting this guy to get drafted at all, or if he does, in the 6th or 7th round. But right there, he got both feet in right there on that catch. He's a mismatch for sure. He's one of my sleeper in the dynasty league. I'm taking Elijah Cooks. Like you said, Sean, 3rd or 4th round. I'll take my chances. I think if he would have played most of last year, we would see Elijah Cooks going in the 3rd or 4th round this year.
Yeah, like I said, there's not a lot of big guys. But yeah, go ahead. 6'5". 6'5".
You said he's 6. And how many pounds?
He's about 6'4", 215, 220. Yeah.
Okay. So I haven't heard of him, but I like the way he's attacking this ball right here.
Yeah, that's my.
Now he has a nasty. He might not, like I said, he might go like day 3, but it's not a lot of big receivers making plays like these out there that you really see. Like I said, it's a draft full of short guys. And I think he looks like he doesn't look slow. I think he might probably run around like a 4.6, but I think at 6'5", that might be enough.
I agree. Just the mismatch with him, and like I said, he should not be going, round 6, round 7, in my opinion. But it's probably what we'll see come draft day.
So Kerry, I think we get you. Yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I was going to ask real quick if we have any Terrace Marshall film available, because in the shadow of Justin Jefferson and then Jamar Chase, I feel like he's gotten overshadowed a little bit.
Let's talk about Terrace. So how you guys feel about Terrace at the room? Like I said, he was on that insane LSU team, and he got outshined by those guys. But he made the splash plays that you love to see. He made the plays. He made a lot of big plays. 6'3". Like I said, he's one of the only guys who has that the build of an X receiver. So that's one of the appeals of him. But how does the room feel about Terrace Marshall Jr.?
See, I wanted to ask you guys about him. I'm glad you got to him, because Kerry and Chris and I all kind of looked at him, and look, obviously you see the height, you see the speed, you see that he plays above the rim. He also does some stuff after the catch. But we were kind of like, good player, but I don't know if I see a 1st round player. And we all kind of felt like, well, we must be missing something, because the consensus out there is that he's probably that back end of the 1st round kind of guy. A lot of people see the tools that he has, but I got to tell you, I'll be honest. All right. So I'm biased, obviously, being a Ravens fans. We care a lot about run blocking. And
we going to run block. Go
figure. I'm a little biased. Look, let me just say this, right? You're drafting these guys to catch the ball, not to block. That's off the jump, right? I understand that. But That concerns me a little bit, man. If that's how you compete, right? If that's what you want to put out there on tape in the run game, that you kind of just gonna let a man run up and just punk you. That kind of worries me a little bit.
So I'll say as a Jets fan, unfortunately, we got a lot of picks this year, right? And I wouldn't take him with either of the first round picks. So 2 and what do we have? 23, 21, whatever it is. Yeah, 23. I'm not taking him with 2 or 23. Then you get into our second round. We got a high second round, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if I take him high second round either, right? So
Raz, are you, as a fellow Jet fan, are you saying that after they signed Corey Davis and Keelan Cole? Because I feel like that changed a lot of the equation.
Nah, it's not even that, bro. I'm talking like, because at this point, for me, like obviously the Jets need to draft for need, but like if we're going BPA, I don't know for certain that he is the best player available in that first pick.
At 23, probably. At 23, probably not. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
No, but I'm talking about even 33 or whatever it is, the one that we have. I don't know if he is.
He's closer there. He's closer there, but if we're going BPA, you're probably right.
Yeah, I feel like I could find 2 or 3 receivers before that.
He's got the experience. You know, he's a deep threat. He's a deep threat. You know. Pretty much on any team he's going to. Red zone weapon for sure. I'll say the one thing I saw from him, just watching him, he, you know, on these, you know, vertical routes, he did pretty well with separation. And you know, that's probably helping him when it comes to, you know, where he's getting drafted for sure.
I look at him, and I'm just not sure. You talk about like Sean mentioned it, he's one of the bigger body receivers in this draft. He's not a 5'9" slot guy, which I like those guys too. But I don't think you have to worry about the frame play at the next level and the skill set. I mean, every team needs guys that can win over the top. So I don't see why the skill set wouldn't translate unless he goes to Baltimore, where he's run blocking 70 reps a game.
And he's experienced enough to come in and contribute, I think, too.
So I think, and I think, like I said, I think for a class like this, he might. I could understand the lackadaisical. There's a lot of like concentration drops on his tape when you really watch. Even he made a lot of big plays as the third guy in that LSU offense, and even this year he made a lot of big plays before he got injured. But I think for him, his flexibility, being able to play inside and outside, is probably one of the things that like gives him, you know, an advantage to where in another class that probably had bigger body receivers. You know, somebody might fall in love with the size and he can run. So I think it's a pretty, you know, nifty combination of size and yard after catch ability, and he's physical when he wants to be. But you know, I definitely understand the run blocking for sure. That's something that stood out to me. You know, a lot of guys prefer, you know, I can understand it if you're one of these like 5'8", you know, shutterbug guys, like running your guy off the line of scrimmage. That's fine if you're 5'8". When you're 6'3", it's like, bro, come on, what are you doing? Run blocking for sure is definitely.
Listen, if Hollywood Brown can out block you, there's a problem.
Yeah,
it's not even just in the run blocking. That you talk about a guy that size, right? You expecting to see some physicality as he releases off the line too in his routes, and he ran out of the slot a lot. So he had a lot of free releases without anybody getting their hands on him. And then when he was on the outside, like you said, he's running a lot of these kind of boundary vertical routes where you can see the trait he has there. He'll just run by guys. You can tell he can run. But when you're that big, I mean, one of the things that Chris mentioned, Rashad Perriman earlier, one of the lessons I always learned from him, you know, because I was a guy that kind of liked him, was like, hey, man, this might work out. But one of the things that I've always learned from that experience was the level of contact from NFL cornerbacks and DBs is on another level from college. I mean, you're going to play through a whole lot more physical contact. And if you can't deal with that, you're going to struggle. So I just worry about that with Marshall. Not that he can't do it. I just didn't get an opportunity to see him do it a lot because he was working out of the slot so much. Or when he was outside, like I said, he was just running that kind of outside release go route and just running past him. So that's kind of where I am. Obviously, he's got the traits. There's no, you know, in the body type, everybody can see that. But that's my concern.
For the Ravens, you know, he's not the typical wing T wide receiver y'all need. Y'all need somebody who can really block.
Yeah, so. You gotta get in there and get your hands dirty, man. You can't be scared.
Hey, man, he just gotta get in the room with Patrick Ricard and Nick Boyle, and he'll be straight.
So I think I would love to get the room's opinion on Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is another one of these guys Like I said, I was a huge Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow fan last year. But if you watch the games last year, Jamar Chase was just as dominant as either of those guys. If you watch the national championship game against Clemson, he might have been the best player on the damn field. He's the one that gave AJ Terrell a nightmare. He's the one that had AJ Terrell name on the Summer Jam screen. You know what I'm saying? He was the one that was cooking that man like a million different ways. So, I mean, Jamar Chase is definitely one of the premier receivers in this class. Take from the room. Who would like to start us off on Jamar Chase?
I'll keep it simple. He's wide receiver 1 for me. I heard the comp that he's a more explosive Anquan Bolden, and I think that actually fits very, very well. All love to Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle, but if I'm taking one receiver in that class, it's him.
I agree.
He's a dog. As simple as that. He's a dog. And that's the thing that really was so polarizing about watching him and Marshall together. I'm looking at this guy that's 3 inches shorter. He's a straight dog, right? So I'm trying to understand. But anyway, this is about Jamar Chase. Yeah, no question. He's number 1. He's wide receiver 1.
Yeah, and I see some Amari Cooper comps. I don't know how y'all feel about that.
Well, he's got a lot more dog in him. We were talking about dudes that don't have dog. Amari Cooper, no respect. At times,
Amari
kind of
Cooper's
fits
40
that
fantasy points or 2. It don't matter. There's no in between. He gets all his points in 7 weeks, and you're just like, all right, it was a good draft pick. But those 7 weeks you don't have them.
I've made the executive decision. We are naming the Alka-Seltzer Fantasy Player of the Year award on this show, the Amari Cooper Award, because that's what he is.
This is true. But I mean, now Jamar, man, like to me, he's the best receiver in the class, and I know people don't. People are very like Devontae Smith had a ridiculous year, ridiculous.
Is it a bad tackle or is this too small?
Both.
What y'all think? Bad tackle or too small?
It's both. It's both. That's both. I mean, but Jamar, like, look, he runs hard. He goes like he's my number 1 receiver in this, and I have Waddle number 2. Actually, so I've taken a lot of flack for that. But I mean, Jamar. I don't like anything. I don't have any issue with Smith. He's kind of slight. He's definitely an athlete, and he's definitely real. But I mean, I'm looking at Jamar, and Jamar, like his routes, his like he climbs the ladder, like you said, run after the catch. He's a dog. Yeah, look at that shit, man. Like, like.
And back to the physical thing. To me, he was the guy who played through contact the best out of any of these top guys that I saw, and it's almost like he wanted it. He wasn't just waiting for you to kind of put your hands on him. He was going to initiate the contact and he's just throwing dudes around. And so to me, like I said, that's a big transition for guys coming from college, and he wants all of it, So I like that about his game.
LSU was down.
Can you run that one
back? LSU was down 10 in this game.
The idea that I like for him is
I just like the late hands. Like he has the late hands. Like he's not letting the corner know when the ball's coming until it's there. Like he had nothing. Like the corner could do nothing about that shit. One great throw.
That's AJ Terrell. Yeah, that's AJ Terrell, bro.
Right here, you see the hands. Get off.
Yeah,
then another one get off. And boom.
Yeah. like that's the lay hands in a receiver is something like from the college thing is where I look for the most, because it's like a lot of receivers on the college front, they're showing their hands early. So the DBs know when the ball's coming and they know when it's getting there. Like on the next level, that's not going to work. You got to be able to have some deception on that. So if you're getting in out of your breaks, you're getting the DB off you with the quick hands, and then right at the last second is when you go for the catch. I mean, that leads to success usually at the receiver position in the NFL.
He's a boy.
Yeah, I mean, look at him. He's like, come on, put your hands on me if you want to. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Now, see, look at that. I had that play clip too. Because I'm like, look, this is what I want to see.
Ravens traded up to 4 to get him.
But to me, the reason I put so much stock in that is because to me, it shows your competitiveness, right? It's not just about the fact that it's a run play and you're blocking on a run play, but it's your competitiveness. And I always think about something Nick Saban said, where he's like, look, just because a player has talent and ability doesn't mean they have the competitiveness to be the best they can be, right? So you can look at measurables and you can look at, sort of those kinds of traits. But when you see a guy who competes in everything, not just when he getting the ball, like in everything, then to me, that's something that, you really want to pay attention to. He does that. He doesn't care what it is. He's competing on everything.
Did you title this video, is it making Trayvon Diggs his son? Is that what it was?
Yes. That's I mean, like poor Trayvon Diggs, he had no chance on this play, bro. Like poor Trayvon, bro. Trayvon's pretty good, but on this play, they playing handsies, and that's not a game you want to play with Jamar Chase. You're gonna end up on the ground every time.
I think that was a real unforgettable game for Diggs, if I remember correctly.
It
was.
I remember I was at a wedding, real fucked up, and keeping up with this game on my phone. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
And that's honestly, it goes back to like Sean, like we talked about, like what Justin Fields did in that Clemson game, and how kind of like when you step up in those moments, like that kind of makes guys stand out. Obviously, like what Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase did in that 2019-20 LSU playoff run. It just kind of like advances that thought in your head, like these dudes are dogs and they're not afraid of the moment, and this is going to translate at the next level,
We're getting to my guy here. This is who.
So Raz, take us away on this one. We could get to the Rashad Bateman. Rashad
Bateman, man. He's. I would love for the New York Fast Planes to get a receiver like this. Minnesota has been putting out some solid wide receiver prospects over the last couple of drafts.
Shout out Tyler Johnson.
I mean, he's buried somewhere. Where's that? Tampa Bay. They just have too much talent. Like that's tough.
He made some plays in that Green Bay game, if I remember off the top of my head.
I wanted the Jets.
That was the Kevin King pass interference call that sealed the game.
Shut up! Didn't they re-up his contract? How much they gave Kevin King?
Kevin King, it's like $6 million. Like this, he can make $6 million. It's more like $2 million.
Got you. But I mean, look, Bateman, man, he's just a target. Like I don't know how else to even put it. Like he
wins off the line really well.
That's a bad cornerback though. We should probably get another.
Wasn't that Greg Newsome?
Yeah, I like Greg Newsome, but Greg Newsome, he has that Northwestern stink on him. He got to get once the pro days and all that stuff happen. We'll talk more about the Greg Newsome, but as long as he's wearing that Northwestern helmet, there's nothing worth talking about.
Yeah, and you got to get hands on Bateman because if you don't, he'll shake you. He will route you up. He will definitely route you up if you don't get hands on him. And what was ironic for me was, Ravens signed Sammy Watkins, and I'm watching Sammy Watkins, and then I'm also looking at Bateman, and I see some similarities in terms of that run after catch because Bateman in 2 steps.
I don't know if Bateman is as fast as Sammy though, but I mean, I guess that's left to be seen. I got to get into more of his film. I watched a lot of Bateman this year, but I need to break down a little bit just more of the clips to see what his like in-game speed is like. Because Sammy's very fast once he gets that ball. Like he can't stay healthy, but like when he's healthy, like you said, like he turns from receiver to running back quickly.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't trust any of the time speed this year. You definitely got to go off the tape because
for sure.
Everybody's running like they had the crib. I mean, it's 4.3s,
but like that's
every day.
It's like that, man. We all know that Pat speed.
That route right there, like that extension on the catch across the middle. He's not scared.
Strong hands. Yeah, strong hands.
And it took me a while to come around. It took me a while to come around on him because Chris and Kerry will tell you at first I was like, I see a guy who just eating up off coverage. All right, yeah, he's destroying off coverage. Great. But the more I watched, the more I was like, okay, it's more than that. Because when guys did try to press him, he could get by him.
I think go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say that's not unique to him though. I mean, that's all college wide receivers, right? That adjustment to more press coverage is something all college guys have to deal with coming into the NFL. So I'm not saying, that's unique to him, but the more I watched him, the more I was like, man, this dude has got some nasty releases and some nasty routes. And that translates, right? I think that's one thing we see with wide receivers. If you can route dudes up and you can release off the line, that translates.
Yeah, I think he can be this year's Justin Jefferson. Just the way with his versatility, where he's inside, he's outside. He has the full array of release packages. His hands, he's, confident with his hands. Like there are guys where you see them jump up, try to, basket catch it. Not him. He's throwing those hands out and he's fully confident. Like I'm going to catch this ball no matter what.
It's a lot of pressure for him, though, Justin.
Oh,
Jeff.
just Jeff. I see what you're talking about.
I see it, though. I see.
Think about it.
I see. This is game speed,
What a
though.
year he had.
This is game speed, though. That's the game speed that Chris was talking about. Oh, not Chris. Mike was talking about, and it's just like
he ran a 4.39 at his pro day. I don't know. If
he looks more like a 4.5 guy to me. He looks more like 4.5.
He looked like 4.45. You know, like
somewhere in there.
They were down 31 to Illinois. Ugh.
No, think about it.
31 again.
I think one take on actual Minnesota this year, because I thought it was pretty interesting going back through the tape. The tape this year is not as impressive as the 2019 tape on Rashad Bateman. You know, circumstance, sometimes, you know what I'm saying, he had Tyler Johnson with him in 2019 before. So a lot of that might be scheme. Is he a number one, or is he that complimentary guy? But he has the ability, if you can play inside and outside, that question does not mean as much, and you can just fit inside of an offense pretty well. But I definitely think from some of these plays that I showed this year, definitely we saw a lot more of him being a vertical threat. You know what I'm saying? So I think if he can show that, if he's running 4.39 is, you know, like, times don't mean anything in this class, but yeah, 4.39, even if you want to give him like a 4.45, like that's still plenty quick enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and he had COVID in 2020. I didn't know that. I heard him on a podcast not too long ago. He said he actually had COVID and then had to come back and play. And so, you know, he said, look, it took me a while to get myself back, you know, physically back to where I wanted to be. And, you know, that might be why, you know, maybe he didn't look as fast on some of those runs in 2020 as he did in 2019. So I don't want to, you know, take the man's speed away from him. He probably is in that mid 4.4 range somewhere.
He's a T. Higgins of this class as far as, you know, other players getting more hype than he is and kind of dropping a little bit.
So thoughts on Kadarius Toney. You definitely, like, if you watch anything with the Florida team this year, you definitely saw a bunch of playmakers. A lot of like run after the catch. One thing Kyle Trask can do is get the ball out quickly. So I will give him that, getting the ball to Pitts and Toney. Toney didn't have he really broke onto the scene this year. You didn't get much production the first 2 years, but he had a pretty good year this year. And like you said, he's in the same phylum as a lot of these quick speed guys. So I mean, Mig, I can get your opinion on this. What's your opinion on Kadarius Toney? I know you comped him to Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel is somebody who I've always been a fan of Curtis Samuel. But like I said, Curtis Samuel is somebody who we was waiting for the breakout. These last 2 years, he was underrated last year. He was just throwing he was unfortunately he had Kyle Allen trying to give him the ball in Carolina, and that didn't go well. I think it was something to where he had like the most air yards that was just like on bad throws, like just strictly off of Kyle Allen. Yeah. But yeah, what's the room's opinion on Kadarius Toney? It's another one of these pogo stick speed guys.
Yeah, he's great at separation. First step quickness is, you know, it's there, you know, yards after the catch.
Oh, this is just him reversing the field. This is not even this just shows you like
he's tough. Like he's tough for his size. Like you can see it in this run right here.
He doesn't go down easy.
He's a game changer for sure. You know, he's special teams for sure. You know, from day one, he's gonna be there. He's got experience, so he's definitely gonna be contributing from day one. You know, played in SEC. You know, great. Look at that. It's just, you know, he is one of my favorite sub 6 foot receivers in this class, and I think he's about 5'11", 195, 190 or so. So, you know, they're going to question his build, but, you know, we've seen in this, you know, this new modern NFL that kind of doesn't really matter. So, you know, just shifty, you know, I think whoever grabs him, and he may be one of these guys that, you know, goes late first, early seconds, I think.
Seeing him in that. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, definitely no. Like the Curtis Samuel comp to me is, you know, it's you know, pretty spot on. I like that better than the Deebo Samuel comps I've seen.
Yeah, because they take it back even further. I was gonna go Percy Harvin. Seeing him in that Florida, he looks like Percy Harvin to me.
Yep, same tier. Yep.
And they're not that far off in size. I think Percy was like 5'11", 192, something like that. So they're not that far off.
About the same size.
And Percy's another guy, like kind of like I mentioned Tavon Austin before, and Percy had more success than Tavon did. But what would Percy Harvin be viewed as in 2021?
I love this route right here. If you can run routes like this, I mean, if you're doing stuff like this on the inside, it's gonna be tough for them to like if you watch the way he sticks his inside leverage, the DB has no chance on this when you're this fast. If you just check out the DB in no man's land right there, and he's in pretty good, press. I mean, coverage if for when you're guarding a speed guy like that. But there's nothing you can do about this on a play like that. I saw this really stood out to me because a guy like them, he was told. As if you got the pitch for Kadarius Toney as somebody who was really raw, that's a level of route running that I love to see from Kadarius. So and a lot of his catching traffic stuff, a lot of his catching traffic stuff was a little better than I gave him than I was expecting. So it'd be interesting to see how he improves. And I also think like one of the most important things because after the draft, it's easy to fall in love with guys when you see the scheme fit. But understanding the scheme fit that's going to be most important for these guys to understand what they're going to need. Like as soon as it pops up on draft day, like okay, let's say he ends up on like if you gave him to like Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is a guy who knows exactly what to do with somebody like this. So those are things to watch just so you're making sure you're not falling in love just with situation, but make sure you the guy is talent and scheme. It's another catching traffic. Anybody else had any other thoughts on Kadarius?
Oh, it goes back to he's just tougher than his frame. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I think a comp for me.
Scary.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say with him. He kind of has that wiry strength. Like a comp for me would be Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill is a smaller guy, but Tyreek Hill is a strong guy. So I think he can absorb contact better than I think people think. And then if you watch his one-on-ones, dude is out there looking like he's ice skating. Just had no chance with him, and that I think is still kind of learning that as far as the route running goes. So, people are going to say slot only for him, and that might be the case starting off. But he's a guy that I think can play some Z, and we know he has the speed and explosiveness, but I think he has the ability to make a Tyreek Hill kind of impact at the next level.
I mean, it's hard to compare to Tyreek just because that speed is different. Like that's
one of one. That's one of one.
So it's kind of, but I get what you're saying in terms of like maybe making that impact on the playing field. But like Tyreek, like we draft season mantra is we hate player comps, and then we sit here and then do player comps every single time. But I think
it's actually interesting because that's the first time I've heard a Tyreek Hill comp other than Jalen Waddle, because Jalen Waddle has been the one that everyone's going to there.
I mean Tyreek, we should leave that one alone. Tyreek's one of those you got to leave.
No, he's one of one.
He's such a fucking freak that it doesn't even matter. Like I don't know, but like I think Toney he has a chance like to really make an impact in this league. Is just, I mean, I think for him is going to come to fit what team he falls to. I don't know if he has I guess he has the upside, like he has the ceiling, but I don't know if he has the floor to withstand a bad organization, if that makes sense. Like he has to be put in the right offense.
Yeah, I have some questions about him too. I'm not as high on him just because I think just from watching him in Florida, I think he lacks some of the nuance that you want to see in a first-round wide receiver. Like as far as the hand fighting during a route or getting off a press, you don't really see the nuance that you need in order to be successful at the next level. Now, what I do think is if you could get him, say, on a Green Bay, and he's not the guy, but he can be the guy that's right behind Devontae Adams, and he could just cook and learn the wide receiver position. I think that'll be a great situation for him because he does have a place in the NFL because you see it on tape. Like you see him, you get him in open space and ankles will be taken. So I just think if he can, like you guys have been saying, in the right fit, give him time to cook, and I think he can develop into the way better wide receiver just because he has the tools, he has the movement skills to do that. But right now, as a first rounder, I can't put that first round stamp on him right now.
Hey, Sean, one more. We don't have to watch tape on him, but one more just kind of later round sleeper that I like, especially this is also kind of fit dependent as well. But Amari Rodgers out of Clemson as well, I think could be a real nice sleeper that you get in rounds 3 to 5.
No, definitely. I think one guy. Yeah. Everybody had a take on Amari. Go ahead.
Nah, I think we was gonna lead that to the Met. I mean, that one is a deep sleeper.
I guess my one question for the room would be, I think Raz did touch upon this. And I think, I'm not mad at the take, Raz, because I haven't made my official list yet for my favorite receivers yet. But I'm not mad at either side of the Waddle or the Devontae Smith. No film for that. But where would you guys stand on? I think we're gonna give him another episode after. But how does the room feel about Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle projecting at the next level? We could definitely. I know Devontae specifically. A lot of people made a lot of concerns about his size. But he showed so much in terms of body control, being able to get route running, just being a maestro at creating separation, changing his body contortion midair. So how do you guys feel about Devontae versus Jalen Waddle at the next level?
Harvin
Mike,
Marison.
start with you. Marvin
Marison Jr.
We don't say that name on this podcast.
I said Harvin Marison. What are you talking about?
Oh, Harvin Marison. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I said Harvin Marison. I know what I'm doing here.
That nigga is a killer.
Literally. Don't go to the car wash.
Nah, but that's high praise though, man. That guy that played with Peyton Manning, he was really a wizard out there. So that's a lot of pressure. We keep giving pressure to.
Here's I guess a serious question on Devontae, and I don't know how to. If someone can put it to words for me, I can't describe how he gets open so easily, but he's open all the time. So if someone wants to jump in and see what they say or say what they see there, feel free, because I don't even know how to describe it really.
I mean, it plays to a lot, right? He runs really good routes, but again, he also then was playing on Bama, right? So it's not really. What are you going to do? Triple him?
He made plays from the first time he stepped on that field, even while Judy and Ruggs and all those.
But that's my point.
He always had those. Yeah.
But he can't either way. Even when he became the top dog, it's not like you can send a double team or triple team out there, because then you have Waddle running down there open too. So it's just that helps to why he was so open, right? But not to take away from anything that he has. He runs.
He did. I mean, to be fair, he did a lot of great work this year while Waddle was hurt. And John Mechie's still really good too. Don't get me wrong, but Waddle wasn't there for a lot of the season.
Perfect. But I'm just
I think he's the best route runner in this class.
Well, that helps.
Smith, that is.
That helps, doesn't it?
Best route runner. Yeah. He's got that, that quick release off the line, which definitely helps. You pair that off with that route running eliteness that he's got. I mean, that pretty much tells you right there how he's pretty much open on every single play.
Yeah. That's what you can see from last year to this year. Because last year, when they had Sark as their, or 2019, whatever year that was, when Sarkisian was OC, a lot more RPO based, right, with Tua there. Yep. And so sometimes that's going to create some natural sort of openings for you, because you got guys looking in the backfield, looking at the mesh and the run. But then they did more pro style stuff this year, and he still got open. So to your point, I think it really is what he does at the line. And so I think people look at him and they're like, it's a little frail. All right, so I'm going to come up and put my hands on him. Then he beats you off the line and runs past you, and now the next time you're up, you're like, oh, I got to back up. Now you back up, he catches it underneath, you go to tackle him, he shakes you, and he gets by you. So I think he just has multiple ways that he beats guys off the line. But, that concern about just his frame, I mean, that's going to be there. Even though his tape was amazing, he did it at the highest level in the SEC. People are just going to say, well, look, how many of these guys who look like him have had immediate success. But I won't say the name because I feel like there's something there. But maybe the other guy who came after that guy for the Colts.
Reggie Wayne, that's a great one too. A little bit down the line, who kind of learned up under Reggie Wayne. He's kind of in that mold too. So, I love him. I do. I mean, I think the tape doesn't lie. I mean, the tape is legit and it doesn't lie.
There's too much good tape.
I think what it comes down for me, because obviously I'm on the Waddle side of this discussion. I think it's more so. I feel that Smith is going to be more of a scheme wideout on the seconds on the NFL level than Waddle will. I just think that's just my initial thoughts. I think obviously Waddle's faster. I think Devontae he's up there. Like we're not bashing him. Like we're just comparing the two top. Like right, that's what's going on. But it's like he doesn't have the second gear in speed that Waddle does, and I just think like obviously blocking is going to be an issue for him. And that's about it. I think when you match him up that way, I think he's going to be more of a scheme. It depends on what offense he's in. Like he's always going to be able to get open. Don't get me wrong, but like to maximize his true potential, he's going to have to be in that right scheme that's going to use Devontae as the weapon that he is. I think Waddle is more plug and play for a lot of these offenses in the NFL.
Could he be Will Fuller?
Could he? Who?
Could he be Will Fuller?
Yeah, but if he is Will Fuller, then it's like are you using a top 10 pick on Will Fuller?
No, I'm not.
Are you asking? You're asking, Mike. You're asking if Jalen Waddle could be Will Fuller, correct?
No.
Oh no. I was saying about Devontae. I was saying about
Devontae.
Devontae. Well, so like in terms of that question of he has to go to a certain.
I don't think he has Will Fuller's like end speed, top end speed.
No, he doesn't.
No, I don't either.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I thought you were comparing
Brown.
Waddle to him, because the top end speed is much more comparable between Waddle and Fuller than Devontae and Fuller.
But Antonio Brown's so much stronger than Smith too, though. Like I think that's the thing. Like Antonio Brown, like he's not that big of a guy, but Antonio Brown is sturdy. Like he's a sturdy guy.
He's stout.
I think Devontae too. We probably don't give him enough credit because he's 5'7", but like he's kind of a freaky athlete too in the way he climbs the ladder and makes contested catches and high points the ball. Like it's pretty.
Wait, who's 5'7"?
Devontae, is he not? How tall is Devontae?
He's like 6'6".
Nah, Devontae's like 6'1".
He's like 6'1".
I get mixed up with someone else.
He's like 6'1". Tony, was it Tony that's 5'7"? One of the
Rondale. I got mixed up with Rondale. My bad.
Yeah, Rondale's 5'7". Rondale's 5'7". Yeah,
Tony's like 5'9".
I think the most underrated part of Smith's game is his strength, because I think people just look at how much he weighs, but I think he's a strong dude. Like you see him go up there and you see him rip balls away from defenders, and I'm not calling him a crackhead, but he got crackhead strength. Like you see him on film, and he's doing stuff that dudes at 75 pounds, 170 pounds shouldn't be doing out there to SEC defenders.
He's got the AI. He's got the AI
bad of a blocker.
AI body.
Well, Sean, Sean, we were watching that Mac Jones tape last week. I mean, there were multiple instances of Devontae just kind of bullying a dude at the top of a route. And that really stood out.
My off kilter, because I don't, like I said, we don't like comps, but if we had to like put a dude in a tier for his type of spear of where he's gonna end up, like just route running wise, and like the art of route running and the science behind route running and how every step matters about how you setting up your defenders, getting leverage on the inside and the outside. Like he reminded me just as a route runner of Ocho Cinco. I'm not comparing the body type, but as a route runner, how he got open. Like it's a lot of stuff that I've seen, like Ocho advanced wide receiver stuff. That like
it's funny that you say that, because Ocho bigs him up a lot on social media and says, "I played at this weight. I played at this."
Yeah. Ocho was not 190. He probably wasn't even 195 if we're being real.
Yeah, he was like he claimed he was never 170. He wanted Mickey be down at 170.
Gotta build those calluses.
If you're a good route runner, Ocho really gasses you up on social media. And there's not a lot of them, but if you're a good route runner, Ocho will gas you the fuck up on Twitter.
Smith is the best, I think.
So I have two more streams clips I want to get to before we get out of here. Raz, your guy, a couple guys that you asked for. So we can start with Jalen Darden. Another one of these Mig. I'll let you talk about Darden for a second. Somebody who you guys both had interest in. I will run this tape. Mig, give us your thoughts on Jalen Darden out of North Texas.
I don't think he'll be a 1 or 2 guy. He had his own struggles, but I think, when it comes to, the only time I'm going to see him struggle is, just that, and even that kind of going against what I said, but I was going to say, but just, the deep vertical threat, he's there, but, when it comes to route running, he was kind of limited in that. Does anyone got his size? I had it earlier. To
I got you.
He found sizes.
I think he's 5'7".
Yeah, he's just another one of these. There's just so many in this draft class.
5'9", 175.
Yeah, like I saw a tweet earlier, by the way. Like the average height for the DBs in this class is like a little over 6 feet. So it's kind of, I know it's kind of changing in that way. But no, I like Darden. He was a punt returner, I think, for 2 years there. So he's one of these guys. If you're drafting him, he's definitely going to contribute in special teams. I don't think he'll ever reach that 1 or 2 potential. I'm not taking him any dynasty drafts. But I do like him. I think he's going to be one of these, he's better in the NFL than he is fantasy wise. He's got, I don't know. He played hard. You'll see on this play. Is this the one? No, it wasn't. But he high points the ball well. Especially for a little guy. I know Raz, was it you that liked him as well? I was in on him earlier in the year, sometime around January. And the more tape I saw, the less I liked of him. But if you're taking him pretty late, I think you could do worse. But there's just so many people of this size that I think I'd take my chances elsewhere.
I think for me, it's about where he's going to be drafted, right? So like you're not drafting him high, and I think for somewhere where you're going to get him, probably 4th, 5th, 6th, like you're going to be able to get a person a player that's going to help your roster, whether it's special teams or if you're trotting out 4 or 5 receivers, he's going to be able to make a play here or there. Route running, that I feel like he has a lot of room for improvement on route running. Just throwing that out there to start. Like he's going to have to be able to improve his route running. But on intermediate routes already, he has enough fast twitch that he's able to get open just on that alone. So he's still pretty raw. And for someone that size, it's kind of tough because if you're that size, you need to come with a lot of that skill already to really succeed in the NFL. But I do think just the intangibles that he has and, the versatility that he has, just being able to help on special teams is going to get him on a roster. And then from there, he's going to be able to build on his wide out stuff.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the team. If you're a team that's going to use them, running screens, bubbles, any of these breaking patterns, I think he can excel in that scheme. But he's definitely, like you said, a guy that's going to contribute to a team for sure. But, fantasy wise, I'm going to hold off on this guy. Even
for fantasy wise, you're I'm gonna have to be really in trouble if he's on the roster, right? Like if he's like
I'd be taking my boy Elijah before him,
Yeah.
He had an insane season though. Like I know it's really easy to like scoff at it. He played at North Texas, but
he had a great season.
19 touchdowns, 16, great. Like 100, like that's a 19 touchdowns in any college season. It's pretty damn insane. You know what I'm saying? There's a nose for the ball you have to have, to get up there. And I think Raz, one guy that I didn't want to touch upon, our last guy that we could end on, Matt, I believe you're familiar with the family. I'm on Ross St. Brown's, another guy who I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Who probably has a nice career ahead of him. Not the sexiest profile.
Matt, I don't know if possession receiver, though.
This is Equanimous' brother, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
You couldn't tell by the name.
I mean,
like that whole.
You never know, man. You can't make assumptions, man.
But yeah, Raz, you could take us away on Equimania. I mean, Amon, as I bring up this tape.
Nah, man, he's just a sturdy, strong receiver. Like he's about 5'11", close to 200, and I will say he's explosive. I think that's like the misconception about him. Like his 40 time didn't translate to like one of those fast times, but he has game speed. Like everybody.
That was a dart by Keaton as well.
Oh boy, but he always extends. He keeps the extension on the catches away, and he brings them back in. Like his hands are strong. Like he has strong hands. He can track the ball in the air. His vertical is great. Like I love him, but I don't know where he's gonna go get drafted. I'm thinking like a 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick. But I mean, everybody says they love him in the 1st round. I just don't see him getting drafted in the 1st round. But I don't see him going in the 1st round. I think he has the ability. He has the ability to be a number 1 receiver at one point in his career. It's not going to be. I don't know if it's going to be like a long-lived number 1 run, but like he has that type of talent.
I don't know if he's a number 1 receiver. But he reminds me a lot of Sterling Shepard. Like you just talk about the precision of how both of those guys run their routes. You know, the ability to Sterling Shepard could win deep. Not necessarily. You shouldn't really depend on it. He'll get deep eventually. You know, precise route runners, strong hands. Both of them are good blockers. You talk about. So yeah, Sterling Shepard, another one of the guys that I love. But yeah, I mean, Mick, how'd you feel about how'd you feel about St. Brown?
I didn't watch much on him prior to this, but no, I do like him. I think he's definitely going to contribute. He is, you know, I think his peak will be a number 2 guy. Again, it goes kind of back to every single receiver in here scheme fits. That's a nice catch right there. You know, if I'm not mistaken, you know, just looking from the scouting report, they did say his route running was pretty decent. So, you know, that definitely helps at the next level. That's one of the things I look at when I'm looking at receivers is route running. We've learned every time I'm looking at these guys, I'm thinking fantasy sports. So just from the rookie receivers from the previous classes, you know, somebody that runs, you know, has, you know, better than average, you know, route running and can translate to the next level. I think they have a better chance of being productive. You know, I like him. He's got pretty good hands. Like I said, I didn't read too much into him.
I see him as a safety blanket for whatever quarterback gets him, right? Like if you're a quarterback that can build and grow with him, like one of these young quarterbacks, he's gonna end up being that guy's like it's 3rd and 6, I need a catch. I think you can throw it to him. Like and that's
it's perfect that you said it, Raz. I think it's a perfect example of what I saw. This was that USC UCLA game. He usually makes this grab. This catch ends up, you know, it's a big and it changes the whole momentum of the game. Now, his next opportunity in this play is game on the line. You know what I'm saying? 4th quarter, where we are down 21 seconds left, 1st and goal. They're going right back to him, and he makes the play. Another jump ball for a guy who's not huge, and that was impressive to me because you know, like they went right back to him, and he was sure-handed on the grab. And you know, another one, guys, he's not huge. I believe he's about like 6'1", I think.
That might be generous.
Yeah,
too.
It's another one.
He's 5'11", 5'11" and a half. They got him at.
So 6 feet.
5'11". Yeah, 5'11". But like you know, you need your slot receivers. So I mean, this has been a great episode. I definitely got a shout out to the Deep Cover Podcast for hopping in the draft. For the film room with us. So I mean, we could end on these last takes. Mike, Chris, Carey, shout out to y'all. Support the podcast any way you can. So I mean, since we are on the receivers, so I guess we could say if you guys could do one perfect fit for the team, any receiver that's in this class that you guys feel like might be a great fit for the Ravens in the draft, whether that's in any one of the first rounds, I mean first through third rounds, wherever they might take a receiver. Final takes, and then Mig, Matt, and Raz, any final takes on receivers that we might not have covered that you guys are feeling. So Mike, I guess we can start with you. Who do you think would be a great fit on this Ravens team if they add another receiver?
Well, I like looking at connections, and the guy that you just showed has that connection, right? T. Martin, who recruited him and coached him there at USC, is now the wide receivers coach for the Ravens. And he actually has some really good things to say about him because he said, look, I've recruited guys like Juju, Nelson Aguilar, Marquise Lee, even going back to Randall Cobb at Kentucky. And he said Amon-Ra was the first guy who learned all 3 positions.
He kind of got some Randall Cobb in him too.
Yeah, he said as a receiver, he's like, I've never had any. I mean, as a freshman, I never had any other freshman learn all 3 of the wide receiver positions who wasn't an early entrant, you know, who had like extra time on campus. And he said Amon-Ra picked it up like that. So talked about his football IQ, talked about his, you know, his competitive toughness and that kind of thing. So I think a lot of Ravens fans are like, look, we don't need another smallish body type kind of guy. So people probably might not really feel that pick, but I just like that connection. And I've actually watched a fair amount of him, and I think he's a tough dude. I like the way he plays.
Chris, how about you, man?
You know, I'm gonna go with my guy Tylan Wallace. Not just for what he does on the field, but also he was a guy that earned being the captain the last game of the year. And the Ravens, more than half their draft class were captains, so they like those high character guys because, you know, like Raz has been saying, they're not gonna throw the ball around. So they're going to want guys that are going to stay in the game and not start pouting and calling themselves soldiers and demanding the ball. You know, I think
no TikTok dances, man.
Just on the outside looking in, he looks like the kind of guy that has that temperament where he's going to play. He's going to
he looks like a good fit.
Yeah, he blocks his ass off. He's going to do everything. But on the receiving side of the game too, he brings something that they don't really have. A guy that could go up and go get the ball, and a guy who could do a little bit of it all as far as the yak ability, the intermediate routes, and the deep routes. They don't really have a guy that can attack all three levels like that and bring the same kind of physicality that he has. So that would be my pick.
Hey, man, what's the point of having soldiers if you ain't going to use them?
Kerry, where you at with it, man? Kerry froze again. I Kerry got the K-Loon man. It happens to the best of us, Kerry. Don't worry about it, man. We ain't
but
go ahead, man.
For me, I would say Diami Brown.
That's another great deep threat. Yep.
Yeah, Diami Brown from North Carolina. Yeah, deep threat. But I think he has some quickness to his game. I think he can operate, in the quick route. And I the dude that in 3 years he could be a guy that might be a high level star that ability down off of the D, but I think he has some nice little areas to game, quick game. He's I really.
I think that's that. So yeah, so like I said, shout out to Kerry. Kerry, we're gonna get you in here on a better connection next time, my guy. Mig, what's your final takes? Any other receivers that you fans of that you feeling as we approach close to the draft season?
Yes, I do. So Mike, if you like physical receivers, Jonathan Adams Jr., Arkansas State. Boy is 6'3", 220. If I'm not mistaken, he finished first in college last year with 20 contested catches, 12 touchdowns, 79 receptions, 1,100 yards. I think he'll find a fit in the NFL. Definitely, red zone target for sure. Super, super physical guy, does not shy away from it. I would not either if I was 6'3", 220. And, the one, he's not quick. I don't really expect him to be too quick being that size. But, I do think he's going to find a fit on some team in the NFL next year or this year. He's projecting to go, either undrafted or super late. But, there's one guy that I do think, is going to be pretty successful, not too flashy at all, but he'll definitely be able to contribute to, these teams in the red zone next year. Jonathan Adams Jr., Arkansas State.
Matt, you got any final takes or anybody who do you think could be a good fit on the Packers? Actually, we didn't cover that actual side of the receivers, but who do you think actually fits in the LaFleur offense and actually like somebody like Aaron Rodgers could make a star out of it? If you give Aaron Rodgers the right guy, that's an early dynasty investment pick if we're talking about returning early value. So where you at with it, Matt?
Well, I think any one of those kind of gadget guys that we hit on, kind of the smaller slot guys that you can maybe use in the backfield out of the slot on end arounds, jet motion, stuff like that. So, we hit on most of them. Tony, Rondale, and Elijah Moore, guys like that. I think that could be an ideal fit for them, especially where, in all seriousness, an offense like that, like receivers are expected to block. But when you've got a guy there like an Allen Lazard, who is already one of the best blocking wide receivers in the league, that can maybe take some of the weight off of those guys. So, yeah, I think like a gadget, like some of those guys that you just get them in open space and you scheme up explosive plays for them. I think any one of those could be really, really fun in that Packers offense. One more guy I'm going to shout out because he should have been in this year's draft class. Injury held him back. He almost undoubtedly, in my mind, would have gone the first round. He's supposed to be back this upcoming year, but that's Justin Ross at Clemson because, man, if we remember what he did in the national championship game a couple of years ago alongside T. Higgins, that was some special stuff. So he had that spinal injury. I think he's supposed to come back this fall. So maybe he's someone that we're talking about next year. And if he's full strength, that's someone I'd be really excited to see.
Shout out Chris
Raz. Shout out to Chris Olave as well. That's another one.
Yep.
We talked about him earlier. Raz, I'll let you finish it off. One guy that I will definitely say has my eyes that I'm on right now, somebody who I'm not sure, he might be a day 2 or day 3 guy, but I think he has an argument for being the fastest guy in this class. If you want to talk about speed, and this is, like I said, this is the class of these little speed demons. So if you talk speed, quickness, agility, explosiveness, body skills, definitely Dwayne Eskridge out of Central Michigan. Somebody who, I've seen he puts defenders, DBs on their heels immediately. Like somebody who you rarely see defenders look comfortable, trying to stick him. He's smooth in and out of his breaking routes. Can definitely run slants and post. I think he's really tough for one of these mid-major guys. So I actually think a receiving class like this, it's 4.38 speed as well. So that's somebody who, they tried to run him at cornerback, which is why he's still raw. So that kind of messed up his development a little bit. But somebody definitely to keep an eye on if he ends up in that right scheme. You could definitely see him, just being that elite vertical field stretcher that every team needs, to be honest, especially when you're running all the misdirection that teams need. You need guys who are going to scare them over the top to open up those other lanes. Raz, you can finish this off, my brother. Any last takes, and you can wrap us up, man.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about. I got Daz Newsome, out of North Carolina. I think he can be a very solid slot receiver in the league. And then just one more that we could touch on before we leave. I'm blanking on his name. Cade Johnson. He go to South Dakota State, I think, this year. I think he played somewhere else, but we had transferred out. He's kind of just a deep threat, but I'm interested to see how he translates to the next level too. But we are touching over 2 hours. We had 2 hours and about 6 minutes. So I do thank everybody for rocking with us today. I was a bit tardy. So, brothers, I appreciate y'all hopping on here with the Draft Season podcast. We do appreciate y'all. If y'all want to give any last plugs, a lot of plugs to any of your work real quick, let the people know where they can get you.
Chris, Mike, Carey, that's on y'all.
Yeah, Deep Cover Podcast. We on all your podcast platforms. I'm on Twitter at Abukari, Abukari. So if you're looking for Mike, you won't find me. It's Abukari. Chris is at Chris Just Joking, and Carey is at Carey1313. So you can find us all there on Twitter, always chopping it up, talking football, talking Ravens. Those two talk more NBA than me, so you can tap in on the NBA with them too if that's your thing.
Appreciate you, fellas, man. This has been a great episode. Miggy, Matt, it's always love. Y'all know what it is. Matt, let them know where they can find you out in Wisconsin.
At Matt_infield on Twitter. Like I said, last show on Instagram, I may or may not accept your follow request, but it's at Matt_infield there as well. So if you want to give it a shot, go for it.
Draft Season Podcast. We out of here, man. Thanks for rocking with us.